Hello, my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my October 2022 reading wrap-up. I'll be linking my spoiler-free reviews and journal with me's and just other videos that I did for the books I will be talking about today in the description below, and then also in the description below will be links to the content warnings for these books. A lot of these books do contain heavy topics that can definitely be triggering, so please do go check those out if you have any concerns, and with that, let's just go ahead and get started. So the first book that I ended up finishing in the month of October is Let's Talk About Love by Kann. This takes place in the summer and follows our main character Alice, who has the perfect plans for how she wants to spend said summer. However, the only thing missing from her plans is her now ex-girlfriend, who broke up with Alice after Alice came out to her as asexual, which is an outcome that has since turned her away from the dating scene. That is until she meets this guy that she's starting to have feelings for, but she's unsure if she wants to risk the friendship for a romance and a love that may not be reciprocated or even understood. There are two aspects of this book specifically that I really love. The first is our main character Alice. She's super fun and I got pretty attached to her and her personality. Overall, I just enjoyed reading from her point of view. And the second aspect is the asexual representation and just the exploration of it. And now it's time to talk about what I am really conflicted about this book. And that would be the romance and honestly just kind of the relationships as a whole. The romance specifically, I did go back and forth a lot while I was reading, and there was a moment while I was reading where I was like, yes, this is working for me. And I was so happy that I have finally gotten to that point, and I do still appreciate those moments. It was fun, there was cute banter, but I never really did stop going back and forth, especially by the end of the book. And because of that, I am going to end up giving this book a 4-star rating. There's a lot that I really did love, and I am overall happy that I read this book. This contributed positively to my reading life. So next up is The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School by Sonora Reyes. This follows our main character Yami, who was outed by her crush and ex-best friend at her previous school. Now at her new Catholic school, Yami has no intentions of coming out or falling in love. However, that is easier said than done, as the only openly queer girl at her new school is annoyingly perfect. But if word gets back to her mom, Yami could face much worse than rejection. This is a book that took me on an absolute roller coaster of emotions, and honestly, I love it for that. I got super attached to the characters, especially our main character, but not limited to. She just has to be one of my favorite characters that I've ever read in terms of personality. And that is going to be a common theme here in this video today, because I found quite a few new favorites this month. These characters just go through so much, and it's not that long of a book, but everything felt so well paced and just so well done, with only a couple of instances where I didn't agree with something that was said. And it's one of those things where I don't think the book agreed with what it said either, but it just never really brought it back around enough for me, and these were very small instances throughout the book, but they did take me out of the story for a second. The story had me smiling, it had me tearing up, and like I said before, my emotions were all over the place. It has so many cute moments when it comes to the friendships, the love interests, and the family relationships. I never wanted to put this down, and I was so invested the entire way through, and I am going to give this 5 out of 5 stars. And the next book that I finished is These Violent Delights by Gong. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling that is set in 1920 Shanghai. There are rival gangs and a monster, and our main character has to team up with her first love and also first betrayal, and together they have to set aside their guns and their grudges in order to stop all of the mayhem. This story contains what has to be one of my favorite cast of characters that I've ever read, and that is especially the case for Juliet, but they were all good and I got super attached to a majority of them. The story and the world felt incredibly well thought out and developed to me. The atmosphere was also pretty spooky and mysterious, which was a surprise, but it was a welcome surprise because, October. And on that note, the story does dive into a bit of horror. And that was really fun because it did have me cringing away at certain moments, which, again, welcome surprise. I also do really appreciate how dark this book and its characters can get. I said this in my review of this book, but I have been disappointed by so many books in the past that have just not gone to the extent that this one has when I thought that they've really needed to. And I am so excited that I have finally found the series that is going to give that to me. There were so many complex relationships and dynamics. The story had a ton of interesting characters and concepts, and just how it all came together and how it all played off of each other. I really did love all of it. And I am so excited to continue on with this series, and then also probably read everything else Chloe Gong ever writes, because that's probably going to happen now. And I'm going to be giving these Violent Delights 5 out of 5 stars. So throughout the month of October, I filmed a reading vlog, and throughout that reading vlog, I read a variety of horror manga, and that includes Volume 5 and Volume 6 of Chainsaw Man, Volumes 1 and 2 of Mieruko-chan, Ibitsu, and then also the Liminal Zone. I am going to be leaving my thoughts on these in that video, which will be linked up in a card and then also down in the description, but I will say, it was quite the experience. So next up is The Girl from the Well by Rin Jupeiko. This follows our main character Okiku, who wanders the world freeing the spirits of the murdered and killing their killers, as she was once a victim herself. One day she meets a boy named Tark who has an evil lurking beneath his skin. All of his neighbors may fear him, but Okiku knows that he just needs to be freed from the demon that clings to him. However, if that demon dies, then so will he. This book does a lot of things that I found to be really interesting, like it sets itself up and teases things really well, and there are two reveals in particular that kept me reading and eager to find out more. One of them did end up being pretty unsatisfying the way it got revealed, but the other one did work for me. I also found Okiku to be an incredibly interesting narrator, and I thought that she had some complex and engaging relationships and dynamics with the other characters. This book also does have some really nice moments of horror within the story, but I didn't necessarily feel attached to any of the characters. A lot of them just kind of felt like they were there for me. But this book did do a lot of things that I really enjoyed and appreciated, especially in the spooky season. It did live up to its cover, which honestly, that's all that I asked from it. And I am going to be giving this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the final book that I finished in the month of October is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. This follows our main character who receives a letter from her cousin begging someone to save her from a mysterious doom. So she goes to the High Place, which is a house in the distant Mexican countryside, where she finds her cousin's new, menacing, and alluring husband. I originally hauled this book not knowing much about it, but I knew that it was hyped, and I quickly found out that it was hyped for good reason. I mentioned that I gained quite a few new favorite characters this month, and our main character here is definitely one of them. She's pretty high up on the list. She might be second to Juliet, or she might be tied for first. I love her confidence and her personality, and she was just overall super charming. I had an amazing time with her. We gelled immediately, and I was rooting for her and attached to her throughout the entire story. This story also has some really strong gothic and horror imagery and atmosphere. It has some incredibly disturbing scenes and descriptions of things, which again, content warnings will be linked down below. And the reveals all worked for me in this one, although I do think sometimes they could lean a little bit info dumpy. Like I had to reread a few things because I zoned out in the middle of them, no matter how hard I tried not to, because I knew they were important to the story. But otherwise, I have no complaints. I also do want to give a quick shout out to the romance. It was cute and complex, and it made my heart feel things. And everything about this book just felt really solid. It's definitely a favorite of mine, both for October, but also just in general. And I am also going to be giving Mexican Gothic 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, so that is all I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!